Chris, you want to just give a little info about yourself, just a little quick, brief elevator pitch bio?
Sure. So, yeah, I am the head of brand and innovation at C9. So my background coming into this is a little bit of a mixed bag. So I'm also one of the creative directors at Illuminator, which is kind of our marketing and agency at C9. We're the ones coming up with the main kind of brand story and narrative, coming up with the ad campaigns and building Nor and this platform as a brand. My background is both in engineering. I went through computer science, computer engineering, and also design and media. So I have a really detailed background and a really unique expertise to really create these consumer-based stories in this space.
Yeah, how do you go from like engineering to branding? That doesn't seem to be a natural progression.
So while I was at school, I realized that my focus wasn't really on the building aspect. It was more of the concept and how do I bring this product to life is where I kind of shifted my focus. And that's where my passion came through and started in advertising right off the bat. So starting the opportunity, going through, having a chance to be an art director as well as a developer and start creating those early interactive experiences online. So in the early 2000s and the late 90s, having a chance to be on that forefront of innovation and technology.
Are you an artist? Like, do you draw or paint or do graphic design?
So yeah, my background is in some graphic design. So I design a lot of the work that we're doing ourselves. I have drawn in the past. I do have a lot of my own art in my home, but I don't do anything outside of stuff for me personally to get out there, other than what I do for our brands.
I
and
would
clients.
love to see some of that. That would be cool to see. So you want to kind of talk about how you came aboard the C9 train? Like most of us, like we all have that connection to Brooks. So you want to talk about that a little bit? Because aside from your work with Brooks, you've done some really cool stuff. You have a very impressive resume.
Thanks. Yeah, so I had a chance to work with Brooks on an amazing project on Avatar. So working with Brooks and the Lightstorm team to develop this really fun, innovative platform to really push that franchise forward. I can't get into too much detail about that, but just that passion that Brooks brought and kind of building that foundation with him and that friendship kind of drew me into coming to C9 because he came to me with that amazing idea, that main pitch of what he thought Nor could be, and I was all in. It was something that I felt really passionate about because I love pushing the boundaries in innovation and finding different ways to connect consumers to brands and products and kind of having a chance to build a brand from the ground up, being there on the ground floor and thinking through that full story narrative and how we kind of build it up and get it out to market.
And you got to do a lot of that during your time at Activision too. You want to talk about what you did at Activision and some of the brands that you were involved with there?
So at the time, I was one of the digital agencies that were working on Activision products. So I had a chance to help launch Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, going into helping the team kind of launch the first Skylanders and having a chance to go through and build those digital marketing experiences around a lot of those new Activision products. And during my time there they were starting to release what they had at the time, Call of Duty Elite, which was kind of the stats and player community and helping build that single sign-on and finding a really unique way to connect brands and connect the community to their inner soldier and just kind of bring that entire community into one place, that single sign-on that kind of paved the way onto how all brands work today earlier on. So just finding a way to take that massive community online on all their isolated social groups and just connect everything in one place for their Activision brands.
You make it sound so easy, and I'm sure it looks easy, but there's a lot of, it's like ducks on the water where they look like they're just gliding along, and if you see below the water, their little feet are just going. So it's not as simple as it sounds. And I think a lot of people need more, don't do this. They see somebody else do something and they want to copy it, and that may not be right for your brand.
I think the first thing is to understand kind of the differences between brand identity, branding, and what a brand is. Because a brand is the way people perceive your company, your product, your services. You don't make a brand. Culture does. Your community and products do. What you do as a company, you make the branding and your brand identity. And when it comes to brand identity, that's your logo, the way you look. Yeah, but your branding is how you have your mission, your beliefs, your tone, and that's where your marketing comes out of. That's where your advertising comes out of. So that is kind of how most people have that misconception of like where a brand and branding comes through. And I think it's just getting that base understanding of really thinking through your branding and starting at kind of the why that any product and service you bring to market is that purpose. Like, why are you doing it? Most people know the what they're trying to create. They know like, I'm going to create a video game. I'm going to create a clothing company. And then they like already know how they're going to do it. It's like, I'm going to market it this way, or I'm going to sell it this way. But they don't know why they're doing it. I think that is the most important thing, no matter what any brand, any individual on social channels are doing, is just like, why are you doing it? Once you have that core foundation of that understanding of why, you'll be able to really understand the purpose behind your product and your service that you're bringing to market.
So like, what would be the first 3 questions that people should be able to answer? Like, if I want to be an influencer on Instagram, what are the first 3 questions or the first 3 things that I need to have like charted down so that I can get started if I'm starting from nothing and I know nothing about this space?
The first, you have to know like, what is it? Like, what are you doing? Why? What is the thing? Your purpose.
What if I want to be a Kardashian? I want to be famous for being famous.
You can't do that.
That's how they got started. They did, right?
Yeah.
They got famous for being famous.
That is not a why. That's not a product or a service. Like, they sold themselves at products, and I think that's a different thing altogether. But I think the understanding of like what you're trying to sell, and then going through the how of understanding like, how are you going to do this? And that is the details of the marketing plan, the strategy, and the thinking behind it all. And then just making sure you know why you're doing it. Like, because I want to make money or I want to be famous, that's not a why. That's an outcome. That's what you get out of it once you have all that right. And nobody can, like, if your aspiration is to be famous or rich, then you're in this for the wrong game. You're not thinking through kind of the opportunities, and you're not really focusing on the real purpose, and you're not going to be able to create a really in-depth and purposeful brand without that thinking.
Are there any resources that you could recommend, like books or maybe TED Talks or TV programs to watch that people could use to get started?
There's tons of brand identity books out there for anybody that they want to get their hands on. Designing Brand Identity by Alina Wheeler is fantastic if you're trying to go into the basics of building a brand identity, thinking through the logo and thinking through how you're perceived. It's a fantastic book. But then you want to get out there and you want to have that narrative and story. The Donald Miller book by Building a Brand Story is really helpful, I think. Just having the understanding of like how not all brands are the same, and making sure you're clarifying your message and making sure you're standing out and you're showing the innovation, you're showing your differentiation in that space is really important.
Have you ever seen a brand or some kind of branding or some promotion campaign that you thought, wow, that's really cool, clever, innovative. I wish that I'd been part of that, or I wish that I had designed that?
Yeah, for me, things that resonate the most is when kind of brands kind of focus on how they're kind of shift culture. Because brands that ignore culture kind of are ignored by culture themselves. So I really love going back to not specific campaigns, but thinking through how the automotive industry in the 50s and 60s really shifted the American culture. like I would have loved to have been part of that ground floor, the thinking of how brands like Ford and General Motors shaped an entire country. Like it literally shaped America just on the branding and how we're so reliant on the automobile. And that thinking and all the advertising and the strategy that went behind all of that is groundbreaking because it created an entire culture that America runs on today. It's like we don't have the rail systems, we don't have the transit systems like the rest of the world does because of the way these companies shaped America. So that's kind of the one thing I would love to have been on the ground floor because that does shape culture overall. And I think any brand that has the ability to shape culture is a successful brand for me.
I want to talk to you about music a little bit. So I know that you just moved and I can barely see your guitars back there. Like, what's your pride and joy guitar and what kind of music do you play?
Well, my pride and joy guitar is one of my first electrics. It's just this cheap off-the-shelf Stratocaster knockoff that I've had for, it's probably going on 25 years now. And it's held up. Like, obviously, I've kind of replaced the pickups and stuff, but there's just some sentimental value to that of just having that classic kind of knockoff Fender. But yeah, that's kind of my pride and joy of just something that's kind of held the test of time and just has that classic look.
And what kind of music do you like to listen to or play? Or are they the same kind of music? Because I play folk music on my guitar, but I will listen to some Sex Pistols and Led Zeppelin in my car.
Yeah, so I'm a little all over the place. There's most of my focus is in playing a lot of metal, playing a lot of kind of more the harder type of rock. But going into, I do love kind of folk music and things like that. So
I would never have guessed you because you're just so mellow.
All right.
One question. Thank you, Tom. Just from Tom in the YouTube chat, who's asking if you have any business mentors from your field.
I do.
Like, who's a mentor to you?
I have a few of them. I think over my career, I think I've had a chance to work with a lot of great creative leads and creative experts. And then the opportunities just continue to work with them. I think I've been able to grow because of one of the creative directors I got a chance to work with and the executive creative directors that I've worked with, Val Carlson, over the years. I think she's really helped me shape the way I present, the way I think, and the way I kind of evolve the way I interact with people. I think she was able to teach me and mentor me in a way that I didn't think possible, the way I can relate to kind of the team and be able to grow a team a little bit more. And that was instrumental on kind of my career growth and the opportunities I've had.
Do you remember maybe the best advice you ever got from anybody? What was it?
The best advice is going into any presentation, just prepare. It's just like, doesn't matter how good you are as a public speaker, how polished your presentation is, if you don't prep and prepare and practice, it's never going to be that great. And I think we all in this industry have a little bit of egos and we're like, we're perfect. We don't have to practice. We got this right. We don't have to do anything. But having the opportunity to prep and prepare is really important. And giving yourself the time to do it is, I can't stress that enough. Just however people do it, doesn't matter. If you write it and you need to talk it out to yourself, you need to present it to other people, doesn't matter how you do it. Just having that opportunity to prepare for stuff just makes all the difference.
What advice do you have for folks interested in getting more involved in Web3 gaming?
I think it's having an understanding on the fundamentals of play in games. Because it doesn't matter the technology you build any game on. It's having the understanding of creating something people want to play. And making sure that anything you do is something that no matter how much money someone can make or how much money's behind it. You want something people just want to come play every single day. It's like, it's just no matter what, they can't wait to get into that game. And if you're not creating something that's fun and enjoyable and something they can get into play with themselves or with friends, that is the core thing, is having the base understanding and the strategy on how to create kind of great games as a fundamental piece. The technology comes next. It's like, doesn't matter what you build it in. You can build it in Unity, Flash, whatever you want to do. It's like, it comes down to just great gameplay and a great story, great narrative, and focus on that first and not the technology first.